A fisherman sets up a simple structure in the water before going to sleep. He doesn't use a rod. He doesn't use a hook. He doesn't wait. He wakes up the next day and has 40 pounds of fish waiting for him. Sounds impossible? It was the favorite method of traditional American fishermen for over 200 years. It cost pennies to make. It worked on its own while you slept. And the fishing industry made sure to bury this technique. Today, you'll find out why. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any secret the fishing industry tries to bury. Let me tell you a true story that happened in Louisiana about 15 years ago, before the regulations got stricter. A Cajun fisherman named Pierre was competing in a local fishing tournament with a $500 prize. There were 50 competitors, each with state-of-the-art equipment. Shimano carbon rods, imported Japanese lures costing $20 each, $800 Garmin sonars, GPS with bathymetric maps, all the paraphernalia that stores say you need to fish properly. Pierre showed up with a bamboo and wire structure he put together in 20 minutes, using materials he found in his backyard. People laughed when they saw it. They called him old school. They said he was wasting his time. Pierre didn't care. He set 3 traps in the water at 6 p.m. in strategic spots he knew well. He went home to have gumbo with his family, watch the Saints soccer game, and sleep comfortably. Meanwhile, the other 49 competitors stayed on the river all night, casting bait, changing lures, adjusting depth, battling mosquitoes, spending gas on the boat, using headlamps. Pierre returned at 6 a.m. well-rested. When he pulled the first trap, he had 15 catfish between 2 and 4 pounds each. Second trap, 18 crappie and some bass. Third, another 12 catfish and a 5-pound bass. Total, 38 pounds of fish in 3 traps. The other fishermen, who spent 12 hours holding rods, averaged 4 pounds each. The guy who came in second caught 9 pounds and thought he was going to win until Pierre arrived. Same water, same river, same night, same species of fish available. The brutal difference? Pierre used traditional fish traps that his grandfather, who had been fishing in the bayou since the 1940s, taught him. 0 physical effort. 0 expensive technology. 0 dependence on perfect timing. A result that humbled everyone. The tournament judges were so embarrassed, so ashamed to see $2,000 equipment lose to bamboo and wire, that they changed the rules the following year to ban passive traps. They created a clause stating that only active methods were allowed. They defined active as anything that requires the fisherman's constant presence. Why did they do this? Because the result exposed an inconvenient truth. All that expensive equipment, all that technology, all those gadgets the industry sells, were completely unnecessary. A 200-year-old method destroyed modernity, and that couldn't stand. The trap Pierre used is just one of the techniques the industry doesn't want you to know about. I compiled everything the fishing industry hides from you in the book. High-level fishing, the water game. Inside you'll find reading freshwater and saltwater in practice, how to identify productive zones fast. Structure, where fish actually are, never waste time on dead spots again. Current, tide, and water flow. The invisible motor that controls the bite, positioning and angle of attack. What decides more than the lure? Fish behavior patterns. How to predict where they'll be. Real-time decision-making. Stop guessing and start deciding. High-level angler mindset. The difference between amateur and pro. Everything in one place, no fluff, straight to the point. Links in the description. Now, I'm going to reveal what this trap is that worked so well. Ready? It's a funnel trap. That's right, a simple funnel trap that you assemble with materials that cost less than $10 at the nearest hardware store. It seems crazy that something so basic, so primitive, surpasses technology worth thousands of dollars. But the biology and behavior of fish perfectly explain why it works. On the Mississippi River, from the Missouri to the Gulf, Native American fishermen used this for centuries before Europeans arrived. Tribes like the Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Biloxi mastered this method. They built larger structures made of willow and wicker that lasted entire seasons. In the Louisiana Bayou, Cajun fishermen inherited the technique and adapted it. Entire families lived off it. One fisherman had 20-30 traps scattered throughout the canals. He checked them all in the morning. There were always fish. In the Carolinas, both north and south, it was passed down from father to son as a family secret. You didn't teach it to just anyone. It was like a family recipe. In Tennessee, Appalachian fishermen who lived near the river set up dozens of these traps during spawning season and caught so much fish that they sold it to the local market. They fed the entire town. In Texas, on the Brazos and Colorado rivers, ranchers used the same method to guarantee protein without spending time. And what did it cost? Practically nothing. Bamboo grew on the banks. You could get wire from old fences, or buy a few meters for pennies. Nature provided the rest. But why exactly does a passive trap work as well as, or better than, active methods? It has everything to do with instinctive behavior and the cognitive limitations of fish. Fish are hardwired by millions of years of evolution to follow certain patterns that are impossible to ignore. When they see a structure in the water, especially something new that wasn't there before, two things happen instantly in their primitive brains. First, structure means potential shelter. Fish live in constant fear of predators. Hawks coming from above. Bigger fish coming from the sides. Anything that offers cover activates the instinct to investigate. It's hardwired. It's not a choice. It's automatic. Second, structure means food. In nature, any submerged object, whether a fallen log, a large rock, or dense vegetation, becomes a hub of biological activity. Small invertebrates colonize the surface. Insect larvae accumulate. Zooplankton concentrate. Small bait fish hide there. The brain of the larger fish translates this as a safe feeding zone. It's a universal signal in the water. Structure equals feast. Fish don't think about it consciously. It's pure instinct based on millions of evolutionary repetitions. So when its trap appears, it acts like a biological magnet. Fish are drawn in without knowing why. Now comes the truly brilliant part of the funnel design, which transforms attraction into capture. The trap's entrance is wide, open, and inviting. From the fish's point of view, it's just another opening in an interesting structure. They enter exploring, looking for food or shelter. The funnel gradually narrows as the fish swims in. But the angle is subtle. The fish doesn't realize it's being directed. When it finally passes through the narrowest part of the funnel and enters the main chamber, there's no sign of danger. There's room to swim. There are other fish sometimes, which signals safety. There's food if you've added an attractant, but here comes the brutal psychological trick. The exit is the same entrance, only now the fish is looking at the narrow side of the funnel. And fish don't look for small exits. They don't have the cognition to understand that that 2-inch hole in the middle of the screen is the exit. Their brains only recognize wide openings as escape routes. So what do? They swim in circles. They test the walls. They look for a large opening that doesn't exist. They get frustrated. They try again and again. But they never consider the small hole in the center of the funnel as a viable option. It's exactly like a human trying to escape a room where the only way out is a trap door hidden in the floor. You would instinctively search the walls, test windows, try to break down the door, but you wouldn't think to look down and search for a trap door. Your brain doesn't work that way. Same limitation. Their instinct, which normally keeps them alive, works against them in this specific case, and you catch them without having to do absolutely anything other than place the trap in the right place and wait. It's passive fishing in its purest form. I'm going to teach you exactly, step by step, how to assemble a modern, cool, and incredibly efficient version of this ancient trap. You will need the following materials, all inexpensive and easy to find. Galvanized wire mesh with a 1/4-inch opening, approximately a 3x3-foot piece. You can find it at any hardware store like Home Depot or Lowe's. It costs about $8 per piece. Regular fence wire, about 20 feet. The green wire used for chicken coops will do, about $2. 4 natural bamboo stakes or 1/2-inch PVC pipes, each 2 feet long. Bamboo is free if you have it in your yard. PVC costs $1 per stake. Large, sturdy zip ties, a pack of at least 20. They have to be the industrial black zip ties, not the thin ones. About $3 per pack. Regular wire cutters. If you don't have any, borrow some. Total invested. Less than $15 if you buy everything new. If you have some materials at home, it drops to $5 or $6. Now let's go through the construction step by step. Pay attention because every detail matters. First step. Take the wire mesh and cut it into 2 pieces using pliers or metal scissors. One piece should be 2 feet by 3 feet. The other should be 1 foot by 3 feet. The larger piece will be the body of the trap. The smaller one will become the funnel. Second step. Take the larger piece and roll it into a cylinder approximately 2 feet long and about 8 inches in diameter. Overlap the edges by about 2 inches to have something to secure it. Use zip ties every 3 inches along the seam to hold it firmly. Tighten the zip ties well. You want it to be rigid, not loose. Third step. Take the smaller piece of mesh and cut it into a circle with a diameter slightly larger than the diameter of your cylinder. Then cut from the center to the edge, making a straight cut. Now you will overlap the edges of the cut to form a cone. The more you overlap, the more closed the cone becomes. You want the tip of the cone to have an opening of about 2 to 5 inches. This is the entrance to the funnel. Use zip ties to secure the overlapping edges and maintain the conical shape. Fourth step, fit the cone with the point facing inwards onto one end of the cylinder. The wide edge of the cone should align with the edge of the cylinder. Use zip ties every 2 inches around the entire circumference to secure the funnel to the body. Make sure it's firm. This is the critical point. If the funnel is loose, fish can escape through the gaps. Fifth step, cut another circle of mesh the size of the other end of the cylinder. This will be the closed bottom of the trap. But here's an important detail. Don't secure it completely. You need a door to remove the fish later. So secure it with zip ties only 3/4 of the circumference. Leave 1/4 loose, just touching. Use a removable zip tie with a quick release fastener in this part, or simply leave it loose so you can open and close it when needed. Sixth step. Take the 4 bamboo or PVC stakes and attach one to each quadrant around the cylinder. They should be on the outside, parallel to the length of the cylinder. Use zip ties to secure each stake at 3 points along its length. These stakes provide 3 things: structural rigidity, protection against damage, and weight to help the trap sink. Now comes the secret that makes the real difference between a trap that works and one that fails: the correct ballast. You need to add enough weight for the trap to sink and remain stable, but not so much that it buries itself in the mud. Take small river stones, the smooth, rounded kind. You need about 5 to 8 pounds in total. Place them inside the cylinder, evenly distributed. If you don't have stones, use old bricks broken into pieces, or old fishing lead weights, or simply fill a sturdy plastic bag with wet sand and tie it inside the trap. The ideal point, and test this in a bucket or bathtub beforehand, is when the trap sinks slowly in about 3 to 5 seconds without tipping over. If it sinks too quickly, remove weight. If it floats, add more. 7th critical step. Take strong nylon rope, the yellow 1/4-inch kind, and tie about 20 to 30 feet to one end of the trap. Tie it tightly, making several turns and double knots. This rope is your lifeline. Without it, you lose the river trap and your investment. Tie the other end of the rope to a large floating buoy, like those 12-inch orange buoys used for lobster fishing, or to a stake that you'll stick into the bank. A buoy is better if you're fishing from a boat. A stake is better if you're fishing from the bank and want to keep your location discreet. Did you assemble everything? Congratulations! You just created an automatic fish-catching machine for less than $15. In fishing stores, they sell commercial versions of these traps, factory-made in China, for $40 to $80 depending on the size. And, you know what's funny? They're made with exactly the same materials you just used. Same screen, same design. It just has a brand label and pretty packaging. You assembled the same thing with leftover materials and traditional knowledge. That's the difference between being a consumer and being a real fisherman. If you want to further boost the efficiency of this trap and attract fish from a much larger area, you can add these natural attractants that traditional fishermen used. Canned cat food, especially varieties with mackerel or sardine fish. Take half a can, place it inside a perforated onion or potato chip bag, tie the bag closed, and hang it inside the trap using a zip tie. The strong smell of fish oil spreads through the water and attracts catfish from hundreds of feet away. Catfish have barbels, which are chemical sensory organs. They detect amino acids dissolved in water at concentrations of parts per billion. Cat food releases these compounds slowly and continuously. It's like turning on an underwater olfactory beacon. Bread balls, those compacted bread balls. Take regular white bread, the kind used for cheap sandwiches. Remove the crust. Moisten the crumb with water until it becomes a sticky paste. Add a spoonful of sugar and a spoonful of cornmeal. Mix well. Make balls the size of a walnut. Place 4 or 5 inside the trap. They slowly dissolve and create a cloud of particles in the water. Small baitfish come first to eat the particles. Panfish like bluegill and crappie come to eat the baitfish. Bass and pike come to eat the panfish. It's a food chain you've started. It works incredibly well. Corn kernels, those yellowish canned corn kernels. Open a can, drain the water, and spread a cup of kernels on the bottom of the trap before closing it. Corn is a universal attractant. Carp go crazy for corn. Panfish eat corn. Even small bass nibble at it. And the bright yellow color works as a visual attractant in murky water. You're appealing to multiple senses at once. The complete trap now covers the 3 main senses that fish use to find food. Smell with the cat food, taste with the bread balls and corn, and sight with the structure and color of the corn. It's a 3-dimensional attraction system. You're not just waiting for fish to stumble into the trap by accident. You're actively pulling them from a wide area directly into the funnel. Now you might be wondering, and it's a valid question, if it works so incredibly well, if it's so cheap, if it's so simple, why on earth don't they sell it in every fishing store? Why have you never seen fish trap commercials on TV? Why do fishing influencers on YouTube never show it? And more importantly, why have most American states regulated its use to the point of almost complete prohibition, requiring special licenses, limiting quantity, mesh size, and time of year? The answer, when you understand the game, is quite simple: money. Pure economic interest. The fishing industry in the United States moves more than $48 billion a year. This includes equipment, licenses, tourism, boats, electronics, lures, everything. It's a gigantic industry. And its business model depends on a basic premise: making you believe that fishing is an active pursuit that requires specialized and expensive equipment. They sell rod and reel combos for $300, $500, $800. They sell tackle boxes with 50 different lures that cost $15 each. They sell electronic fish finders for $1,000. They sell base boats for $40,000. And every year, they release new models with updated technology to make you feel like your equipment is obsolete. It's the same game Apple plays with the iPhone: planned obsolescence and constant upgrade marketing. Now, imagine what happens if every fisherman discovers they can catch more fish with a $15 trap that works on its own than with all this expensive equipment. The whole model collapses. Sales plummet. Profits evaporate. Shareholders panic. So what the industry has historically done, and this is documented if you look, is massive political lobbying. They pressured state legislatures and the DNR, Department of Natural Resources, to create regulations that classify fish traps as non-sporting, predatory, and ecologically questionable methods. They created an entire narrative that traps are bad for the ecosystem because they indiscriminately capture fish without size selection, and that this threatens fish populations. Sounds legitimate on the surface, right? But then you look at the real facts, and the narrative crumbles. Legal commercial fishermen use gill nets, trawls, and long lines that literally catch tons of fish per day. Industrial trawlers clean the ocean floor. But your little 2-foot trap that catches 30 pounds in a night is the problem? It's laughable. The truth is that subsistence fishing with traps, as it was done for generations, had minimal impact because it was localized, small-scale, and self-regulated. Families caught what they needed to eat. There was no systematic overharvesting. The real ecological problem came with industrial commercialization and overfishing on a massive scale. But it's easier and more profitable to blame the individual fisherman with a trap than to regulate corporations that donate millions to political campaigns. It's about control and money. If you have a tool that works independently of the commercial system, you escape their matrix. You stop being a dependent consumer. You become self-sufficient. And that goes against direct commercial interests. That's why nobody teaches you this. That's why they tried to erase it from collective memory. That's why your grandfather knew, and you don't. It's literally against the business model to keep it accessible and known.